Oh, this episode of Cinema Swirl was brought to you with the support of our backers over at patreon.com/Cinema Swirl. $5 OTP backers get instant access to every episode of Cinema Swirl, our monthly exclusive bonus show where Kevin and I review bad movies. There are currently over 40 episodes that you could listen to straight away, and for our next episode, we shall be stepping into the Dumberverse, either doing Dumb and Dumberer or Dumb and Dumber 2. And if you're listening to this on day of release, you might still have time to get on the Patreon and vote for which one you'd prefer. To sign up or just to find out more, head on over to patreon.com/Cinema Swirl. Right, let's get swirling.
Cinema Swirl with the inescapable scent of a wild chive. It's episode number 95, coming to you from the wild forest of Hollywood, California, looking at all the edible flowers and incredibly poisonous mushrooms of Hollywood movies that my OTP Sam Chaplin has not laid his blummin' papers on as of yet. Hello, Sam. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm very well, but also very hot. Spoiler alert, it's another steaming hot sizzler from Cinema Sizzler here. It's hot.
I couldn't introduce my name until I introduced the fact that I'm hot, because I feel like in any situation I would meet anyone right now, I would say I'm very, very warm, as opposed to telling you, hello, my name is.
Yeah.
But yes, it is quite a hot one today, Sam.
It is hot.
And I feel like when we have a heat wave, and I feel we had an episode very recently where it was quite hot.
Yeah, I think the last one was a hot episode.
And I worry if you add in the chaos of a hot episode of Cinema Swirl with the lack of novelty of it only happening once in a while, this could be a hellacious edition, because we're looking at a very funny movie today.
Yes, Dumb and Dumber. That's what we're going for today. Dumb and Dumber.
Which I will point out, and I do keep track of such things, managed to evoke quite the for fuck's sake, how has he not seen that film response, which I'm not saying that people are less and less shocked that you've not seen the movie, but they were certainly more acclimated to it, so I thought, and then you hadn't seen Dumb and Dumber, and there are bloody riots in the streets, Sam. I'm saying bloody riots in the streets.
Yes, I was half tempted to dig out my favourite segment that I don't think I've ever done, Sam Chaplin's Controversy Corner, because this one, people saying, oh, for fuck's sake, how has he not seen this? Also, there was some kind of, for fuck's sake, why are you doing this? I'll sit this one out. There was some people saying they don't want to, they're not interested. Yeah, but there was also some extremely positive, yay! We're doing Dumb and Dumber. Let's go for Dumb and Dumber.
Wow, I can't believe there's people who were like, didn't know. And was that like any of the 90s comedies? Because this was as the result of a triple threat featuring 3 Hollywood comedy heavyweights of the 90s.
Yes. For the most part, and I can't quote them verbatim right now, the people who weren't happy about Dumb and Dumber being watched probably wouldn't have been happy about any of the other 2 being watched. It wasn't like the wrong one was getting picked. It was more this genre, this grouping of films, not for me. So it's polarizing, this. It's definitely polarizing, but it's also got some really enthusiastic lovers, this film.
All right, I will hold my hands up and say I don't fucking know anything about ye at home now. I don't know what it is.
Who are you? What's your situation?
I don't understand, because I would have said there is one thing that I'd be confident of if someone's like, describe what the Cinema Swirl audience generally likes. I would say, like Dumb and Dumber and stuff like that. Like movies that genuinely, like Dumb and Dumber it's a movie that everyone I ask about fucking loves.
Yes.
It's honestly, I feel a bit overwhelmed by the fact that I can easily say I don't love this movie anywhere near as much as a lot of my closest friends, because everyone, particularly in the UK, but I know in Ireland it certainly had its, when I was in Dublin, it certainly had a fair share of super fans. This one's beloved, really beloved.
Yes. My girlfriend Sophie is a massive fan of this film and has...
I think you're saying is a massive fan of the podcast. And she writes, Sam, why are you so...
Not true. No, she's a big fan. She's a huge fan of this film and has wanted us to watch this together previously, and I've had to say no, we can't watch it because I knew the day would come where this would come up. But yeah, she's a big fan of Dumb and Dumber.
I've never thought I'd see the day when Cinema Swirl would prove to be a barrier in someone's relationship, and here we go. It's glad that you could explain it, because there's some people where if they're like, I want to watch Dumb and Dumber with you, you've not seen it, and you went, no. Some would consider that red flag behaviour.
I think if you didn't know that I had a podcast about watching films,
where you specifically had to do that. That's the asterisk. It's not a red flag. It's the Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's a red flag with an asterisk in the middle of it.
So people have been on about me to watch this film, not just, the person closest to me, but a lot of people in my life are big fans of this. So
How did you go through university without seeing this? Because I know, like, a lot of the I ran in a few circles in your university, and almost all of them featured Dumb and Dumber.
Yeah.
Fanatical fans.
Yes. I think perhaps maybe in my younger years, so my late teens, my early 20s, I might have thought that I could have been maybe above what I thought this is. Right?
Wow.
I'm happy to admit to being a wanker in the past,
Yeah,
I think
fine.
There's probably a bit of hoity-toity kind of, I'm not watching. So I think this is a kind of gross-out comedy. That's my understanding of what, like a stupid gross-out.
Gross-out comedy. When you say gross-out,
yeah.
Like wet gross-out?
I think there's going to be some poo.
Poo?
Some puke.
Puke?
Some piss.
Piss?
The three P's of gross-out humour. Yeah, I think there's going to be
Never
some of
mind
that.
your rule of threes, comedians. It's the rule of P's that we're interested in here in this podcast, okay?
Yeah.
Could you guess a plot for me?
Oh, yeah. It's one of those ones that I can't book report my way out of and guess
it's a
from
vague
the
title, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, the title allowed you to infer fluids, but plot? I don't know, Sam.
Yeah, so I think there's two characters.
Oh, here we go now. This man's got it figured out.
The titular Tomb Raider, Dumb and Dumber, who... See, I don't know what they actually do in this.
Do you think one is dumber than the other?
Dumber will be the dumber of the two.
Which one is dumb and which one is dumber in your mind? I mean, you've seen the poster, so you know who's in the movie, right?
I do. It's Jim Carrey and thingy.
Jeff Daniels.
Jeff Daniels, yes. I mean, Jim Carrey's Jim Carrey, so he might be dumber.
Remind me, are you with Jim Carrey? Are you a fan? I do remember we spent a lot of time when we did the Mask episode kind of saying that we had to respect his kind of, even if you don't like it, you have to respect his kind of his comedy success, I guess.
Yes.
I don't know. Certainly a force of nature in his own right, whether or not you like that force of nature.
So yeah, with Jim Carrey, I've always enjoyed... Well, not always. Mostly enjoyed Jim Carrey's work, and he is a comedy force, isn't he? He's a sort of... we saw this in The Mask.
Yes.
And we, over on Cinema Swill, didn't see this in Son of the Mask with...
Is that the only time
Jamie
you appeared on the podcast, then, is when we did The Mask? I'm
struggling to think of another time. Yeah.
Interesting that. It might be worth it. I mean, I think that certainly there's the question here of, is this in a Jim Carrey vehicle on its own, would you think? Because there's two people in it. Is he sharing the load, or is he kind of the main gimmick here, the main event?
No, I reckon this is a two-hander, a kind of waiting for Godot type thing. This is, maybe
that's the closest you've come to a plot guess yet. I mean, no, come on. You can't just pussyfoot around here now. Give it to me. Give it to me now. I want to know what the plot of Dumb and Dumber is. The titular dumb, the titular dumber. They're waiting for Godot. What happens next?
Okay, here's what I think has happened. They become lecturers at Fancy Pants University, and they, by accident, they stumble into becoming... because they're dumb and dumber. So I'm just trying to think fish out of water. How can we make them have calamity here?
In the vein of a partridge amongst the pigeons, a couple of Dumbos amongst a big room of boffins.
And yeah, that's why. Although I kind of think it doesn't. And I think of Bill and Ted. There's not going to be any time travel or anything like that, but I think it's that kind of movie.
Do you think it could be fantastical? Do you think perhaps, or is it going to be gritty and not gritty, but grounded in reality?
gritty piece.
Dumber streaming on AMC Plus now.
No, I don't think it's going to be too fantastical or comic booky a la, The Mask. I think it's going to be just silly and gross.
Gross.
And I don't always love gross.
Yeah, I mean, have you thought of any kind of... We've seen, obviously, some movies with kind of dumb protagonists and stuff like that, and we've seen some kind of, 90s comedy. We certainly had our rodeo with Adam Sandler for a bit. I don't know, are you expecting... Like, is this going to be crude and rude? Or is it going to be kind of light and fluffy? Because think about, we're in the 90s. This is 90s I'm talking about here now. That is when we have picked. So I don't know if this is an obvious one or not.
Now, I'm going to mention something extremely obscure that I think I've heard that has something to do with this movie.
Okay.
When I was at college, a friend of mine used to make electronic music and would sample clips from things.
Right.
And he put one song on the internet that had a clip of someone saying, "There's shit everywhere, there's shit all over the walls." For some reason in my head, I think that's from Dumb and Dumber, but it could be from something else. It had a great beat and it was a great track, but there was a sample of "the shit everywhere, the shit all over the walls."
That's why you kind of went to the fluids quite quickly
fluids
there.
And maybe to the crude and rude if they're dropping S-bombs,
Okay. Yeah. Crude, rude, there's two dudes. Attitudes?
No. I'm just picturing two silly billies.
Do you think? Here's a question. I'm liking this a lot now. I realize this is. I feel like I'm a cat playing with a mouse here. But anyway, do you think this will be a nice movie? By your modern tastes and standards.
I don't think there'll be like a sad ending to this.
No, but do you think it'll be like a mean-spirited comedy, or is it going to be heartwarming?
Oh, I mean, it's a comedy from the 90s, So I'm imagining there's going to be some stuff that we have to sort of say, that's not all right now. We're not happy with that, I think.
So you're anticipating that there'll be dodgy stuff in it?
Yeah, but that's kind of more to do with its genre and era.
And the time and the era. Yeah, for sure. Okay, interesting. The last thing I want to ask you are there any visuals associated with this movie? Because I in my mind, this is something that has kind of penetrated pop. There's certain images associated with this movie that I think have penetrated into kind of mainstream culture and everlasting and whatnot. Anything about the look of either of them or anything like that you remember or can recall?
I can see Jim Carrey's haircut. I was going to say pudding bowl, but it's not pudding bowl. It's kind of a sort of chopped... I believe this is what you asked for in the hairdressers. A chopped fringe. A kind of neat...
chopped fringe.
A short chopped fringe.
Chopped fringe. Something about chopped fringe makes it sound like it's kind of like reformed pork or something like that, It's not real fringe, it's chopped fringe. Yeah. It's kind of put back together.
Nice big jumbo pack of chopped fringe. Put that on a salad. It's quite nice. Jeff Daniels, he has more kind of frizzy, fluffy hair. I know their hair. I know their hairstyles.
Okay.
I can picture those. You would sort of think with Dumb and Dumber, and I've seen the poster, that one of them would have glasses and one of the lenses would be broken. Or taped up. Or
a dunce hat maybe or something like that as well.
Yeah. I know that was Dumb and Dunce.
Dunce and Duncer, I believe, is the one you're talking about.
But other than that, iconic images, I can't think of anything. I can see what the characters look like.
Well, I mean, I'm really interested to watch this. I've not watched this movie in... God, it's been at least 5... No, it's not. It's been more like 6 or 7 years, I think, since the last time I've seen it. And I do remember the circumstances when I last saw it. And please forgive me and correct me, my friend, if I am wrong, but I believe that one Mr. Billy Keeble of fellow Podcrabs Network infamy, he... insisted to the largest amount of people possible that this movie was somehow terrible, like that.
Right.
I knew that it was kind of a controversial thing that everyone loved it, and it would always the topic would always come up on how everyone loves it so much, and then the topic would soon become how he believed it was absolutely awful.
Billy, famously a contrarian.
A contrarian to the end. And the fact that even you know this as well to this day makes me think that I was going to say, I'm going to be confirmation on that anecdote. Yeah. Fuck it, just publish it. It's all right.
Put it out there.
But and I do remember not feeling too strongly. I felt he was being way harsh, and I felt the other folks were like way too defensive of it. But like, not to kind of put this into, to big it up too much for you, but like, there were genuine in my school, we had a little dinner dance at the end of the year, kind of thing before the devs that we did. So the boys organized their own special dance, special boys
dance.
And there were legitimate arguments, disagreements, and near fisticuffs between two separate groups of boys who both wanted to come to this do dressed up like the lads in this movie.
Wow.
And they were very, very, and when they came out later on, I'll point it out to you when you see it. Imagine seeing them and yet somehow the presentation creating tension in the room. That's something I want you to maybe hold on to when you're watching this. See if you can figure out what the boys are trying to do and how that brought tension. But like, this was one that was quoted ad nauseum. Like, honestly, I felt like it was one of the only movies I remember that kids quoted nonstop when I was in primary school, secondary school, university, and then like jobs. It just feels like it's one of the most widespread. And I don't know. It's considered to be maybe one of his best.
It's beloved. I know that.
It's very beloved.
It's beloved. It inspires passionate views.
Yeah, and like I'm excited for one to watch it not in the backdrop of a fucking debate going on. I kind of want to watch it not with the kind of I just want to see. I'm game for a giggle, and I'm assuming you're game for a giggle right now.
I'm game for a giggle, down for a laugh, but we ran into trouble with National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. That was a beloved comedy.
That's true. I'd say, what do you mean we ran into trouble? You did. I had a great time.
I did.
Oh my God. That's one of my favorite I listened to that episode to get in the Christmas mood now because I'm so giddy and you're like, no, I didn't enjoy it. I'm still like, Christmas.
So I'm not sure how this is going to go, but I'm very curious and I'm excited to finally be able to watch this.
Curiouser and curiouser. Perhaps we should delve in to the curious bag of mail.
Welcome to the mailbag.
Hi.
If you've got any questions, queries, comments, or other stuff for the mailbag, please send it on into cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
Subject, whatever you goddamn like. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com.
Go nuts. Our correspondence today comes in from Richard, who wrote in to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. He writes the following. Picture the scene. Good start. Good start, that. Picture
Don't tell me what to do.
Picture the scene. You're shipwrecked on a tropical island. I mean, I'm already excited about this.
I know you're not. You're so hot right now. Ooh, imagine being somewhere hotter. Fuck off.
Because I like Lost and, people trapped on an island. Shipwrecked on a tropical island with the 4 biggest names in action movie history. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sylvester Stallone, Bruce Willis, and Jean-Claude Van Damme.
My God, no questions asked. This man's Mount Rushmore is right here. We are not debating this. There is not time.
Richard asks, who do you pick for each role and why? The roles are as following. Leader, Hunter/Gatherer, Master Hut/Raft Builder, and killed and eaten by the rest of the crew. Enjoy the show. Keep up the great work. Look, I've got a very glib response to this. When I read this, it's not glib, but I just thought, when I saw Raft Builder, I kind of thought, well, the role I want for all of these men, these beefcakes, is for them to be the raft. Tie all these lads together, I sit on top of them and sail away to freedom. I think that's my plan there. I'm not going to give them roles. I'm just going to...
Sam, beef doesn't float and you know it. Come on. Ridiculous.
Forget that you've done the experiments.
Exactly. I'm always floating my beef just to make sure. Now, have you seen Bear Grylls' The Island?
No.
All right, first of all, you need to get yourself on that because that was one of the greatest, worst reality shows that has ever been created. But it certainly means that I've given this more than a good deal of thought, I'll just say. Because I think it's never much like in political leadership contests for certain political parties, it's never the front runner, and the front runner will usually, as he said here now, killed and eaten by the rest of the crew. The obvious person who put himself forward as leader, but would then be killed and eaten by the rest of the crew, is Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yeah. Okay.
Right, because it's obvious on both categories. It's obvious because he's the guy who's held highest political office, so he would feel naturally inclined to put himself forward. Also, pretty sure, Stallone, Willis, and Van Damme, Sam, we've talked about them all. They're all slighter men than one would have thought on the silver screen.
Yeah.
There's eating and drinking in Arnold Schwarzenegger. Fucking, you want to talk about beef to the heels of a Mullingar heifer there on him. Jesus, you wouldn't want to leave the island. You'd actually be in the situation where you would get sick because there'd be so much meat you wouldn't eat it all before it spoiled.
Can we just get that phrase again? Because it's been a long time since I've heard it and I've missed it.
What? Beef. It's too hot. Beef to the heels of a Mullingar heifer.
Lovely stuff.
And
It's a pleasure to hear that.
For those of you who do not subscribe to the beliefs of the Midlands of the Republic of Ireland,
Yep.
the phrase implies the beef was so succulent and delicious that you would literally eat it down to the hoof.
So Arnie's getting eaten.
Arnie's getting eaten.
Yeah.
I'm then going to put Stallone in the actual leader role because we've done Stallone a few times here. I've always been impressed with him as a director. I recently did a podcast where I had to go through movies of a certain director, and I picked Stallone. I watched some of his earlier stuff like Paradise Alley for it, and I've got even more admiration for him in that sense. So I'm going to give him the leadership role because if there's directing, bit of writing, bit of producing, bit of boxing, he can handle himself.
Yes.
Then you're left now with Bruce and Jean-Claude Van Damme. Hunter-gatherer, hut or raft builder. It's a difficult set of circumstances. I'm thinking Van Damme is a lethal weapon in of himself.
Yeah.
And I think that Van Damme has got more of a kill streak in him. So I'd put him out there doing the hunting. And also, Bruce Willis, I feel that if you're building anything like that, that's as good as a puzzle. And he did very well under pressure.
Perfect.
You think, none of the huts have been built yet, Bruce Willis. And then someone's got a gun to his head saying, and he'll build them up all really right then. So that's my selection. So I don't know about yourself.
No, I think you've got the right order then. I'll go with that. I think Jean-Claude Van Damme could kick a wild hog to death.
I think so, yeah.
No questions asked, even not when he's not stranded on a desert island. I think that's the perfect order. Apologies to Arnie, but he's got meat on the bones. Beef to the heels.
Apologies to Arnie, but the men must be fed. It's as simple as that.
So thank you very much, Richard, for your question.
Great question, Richard.
And that wraps it up for the mailbag. But that doesn't mean we're off to go do a cinema swirl.
No, that's not the only bag that we have in our bag of bags today.
Because hit the music, please.
Oh, God.
Welcome to Pepsi Bag. Welcome to Pepsi Swirl. Hi, Sam Chaplin here, president of Pepsi Swirl.
President? On whose authority?
President and founder of Pepsi Swirl. So today, it's a really hot day. I don't know if you can see this, Kevin, but I am sweating a lot. And,
this is maybe even more alarmed. Like, I just got a message randomly today saying, by the way, there's a Pepsi Swirl. It was given to me not like kind of like as something to weigh in on or to give advice on. It was presented like it was an official, like a warning, like there's a protest going on in the main street. You want to avoid it now.
I sounded the alarm. Hey, it's a hot day, and what do you need on a hot day? You need refreshments.
A hot drink. I mean, refreshments.
So I've got some things here. I'm just going to show you. I've got a glass with some ice in. Now, the ice is mostly melted.
Jesus, Sam. It's like you've got a double of vodka in there because it's been so hot in here. Good Lord.
I've got two glasses with ice in. I've got two glasses here with ice in. I've got a metal chopstick, and I've got a shot glass. And the most important thing that I've got, and I'm going to show you these one by one, is Pepsi Max Soda Stream.
Jesus.
Fluid.
Yeah. There it is.
I don't own
it looks like a bottle of conditioner. Look at that.
It looks dangerous.
I really thought when you were taking it out, I'm like, I'm going to go have the special bath with this now and come back and be like, hey, no.
No.
What? Is it chopstick because it's so thick to actually tease it out of its housing? Is that it? Like it's like thick honey. It's set in there.
You'll see. This is the sparkling drink mix for the Soda Stream line of products. I don't have a Soda Stream and never will I have one. I might have one at some point down the line.
This man's not been to enough car boot sales to rule it out entirely, folks.
I saw this at my local Asda, and I thought, for me, a Pepsi Max enthusiast, this feels like an opportunity to experiment and possibly to kind of mainline Pepsi Max. So what I'm going to do now...
Here I was thinking Sam's going to be like, he's going to give it a spin, so it's not like worrying. He's going to be like, it's going to be like more efficient, or I'm going to compartmentalize it. I'm helping the environment because I'm drinking like the raw product.
Yeah.
No, you use the phrase mainline. Again, when I'm talking about the addictive thing.
So, what I'm going to do, I've got some water here. I've got some just normal still water. I've got some sparkling water.
Look at all the gubbins.
So I'm going to make some flat Pepsi Max. I'm going to make some real Pepsi Max, as far as I can tell. I'm going to try and mix Pepsi Max Soda Stream with fizzy water and make Pepsi Max, see if that works. And then for a laugh, I'm just going to have a shot of the pure stuff.
Right, and how are you following official guidelines on the... are you just cooking? You're going to do it by eye?
Oh, God. Can you see the kind of shade of of brown in there?
Yeah, it has the type of lid.
Just giving it a little sniff. It
has the type of lids that, like, you ever go into like a car shop, like an auto parts store, and there's like reams and reams of like very big bottles of things.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say what I assume is oil, because I don't know if it is oil, but it looks
it's
like
got an oil-like texture. This lid feels like a mucky dipstick.
You wouldn't want to get that anywhere near upholstery, is what I'm telling you.
No. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop...
doing this in an all-white room is borderline madness as well. It's going to look like there's some sort of dirty protest in there. Don't laugh when you're drinking it.
You know what? It does recommend a certain level on the cap, but I think I'm just going to, like the Pepsi chef I am, kind of eyeball it. I'm just going to pop
Wait, whoa. You say level on the cap, are you saying you have to apply it like mouthwash?
Yeah, you have to fill it up to a certain line. Yeah.
Or like detergent, laundry detergent. Amazing.
I'm just going to bob a bit in.
Jesus, that's more than a bit. Oh my God, Sam, no.
Bob a little bit in here.
Like, all right, that ice cube, I've just seen a total eclipse there. It's gone. It just got swallowed by darkness.
And I'm just going to fill up this shot glass now.
Like, all I can tell you, this looks like, all right, for those of you who can't see this looks like metaphorical darkness. Like, if you were watching a thing and they're like, it's like darkness is descending, and they'd show you all like inky darkness. That is it there.
Right, so
I'm worried you're going to become Venom if you drink this. It looks like the symbiote. Jesus.
I've realised
I can't be dealing with that sass.
I fall into the same trap that I always fall into when we do a Pepsi Swirl, is that I forget how this must be for the listeners who are listening to this, that it's not that necessarily entertaining. But what we're going to do, we're going to pop just some still water into here. So I'll just hear the remaining ice.
I hate how good that sounds.
So there we go. I mean, that looks good.
That officially looks awful now. The fact that you kept adding water and it didn't get any less dark, that is, what is that? That's like not normal.
And we've got some sparkling water here. If you can,
give me that.
There you go.
Baby.
Yeah, very nice. So let's pop that in the next glass, which also has the Pepsi.
There it goes.
Concentrate in it. I mean, this looks promising.
That looks like Pepsi.
That looks
I'll give
like
you that.
Pepsi Max. And the shot glass.
Is this Pepsi or Pepsi Max dark matter you have?
This is Pepsi Max dark matter, officially from the Soda Stream brand. So I'm just going to try a little bit of each of these. So I'm going to go for the flat, just still water and Pepsi.
So bad. It looks so bad.
So here we go. Oh, okay.
He's right back for another go.
Oh, okay.
Third time.
You know what? Right. That sort of... I've never had Pepsi Max that flat before, which is exciting. If you carbonate a drink, you're never going to get all of the carbonation out of it.
No, it's true. Although when I was a child and I absolutely loved fizzy drinks, but I loved them when they were flat more than anything.
Or did you shake them up?
Well, no, because I got told off for making a mess. But I realised one day when I was in a cafe with my mum when she was having, we were having lunch, and oh God, that was a fucking big reaction.
It's not nice, but I keep going back to
Was that an aftershock, or did you go for another sip? Oh, you went for another sip.
I went for another sip, yeah.
But yeah, I noticed that
Sorry.
you could make your fizzy drink go flat if you put a couple of teaspoons of sugar into it.
Right.
And it would go whoosh, and then it would simmer down. So there was a period from between the ages of 6 and 9 where I was having, a can of whatever, and I would have at least 3 to 4 teaspoons of sugar in it.
Okay.
Someone should have stopped me.
Yeah, I mean... Speaking of people who should be stopped, the chopstick was for mixing. I forgot about that, so I'm just going to give him a little mix here. If you can hear that at home. Mixing the fizzy one now.
Does it taste too strong, too weak, or did you manage to get it in the sweet spot?
I don't think I got it in the sweet spot. It tastes a little bit too strong.
Yeah, because it does still look hella dark.
It's very...
I'm worried. I think the stronger one... Because it's
light
strong. No, there's no light there. I think this next one's mad dangerous because I think it being stronger but fizzy still, that you're going to fucking love this, I think. I'm really worried.
This is fizzy water with the Pepsi Max concentrated.
This is smoking 4 cigarettes at one time.
Now, okay. So, what's happening here is that we've got strong Pepsi Max, which, as you've rightly pointed out, is a dangerous game.
We're meant to be doing a fucking podcast here now, right? We're going to go watch a genuinely silly movie, and you've never been this fucking hyped up on sugar ever before in your life. I think this is going to be very dangerous.
It's maximum taste, no sugar. Come on. I've realised that what I might end up doing with the rest of this syrup is topping up existing Pepsi Max. Just giving it...
I thought you were going to say, use it as a topping on ice cream. I was with you there. No. You're going to,
making Pepsi Max more Pepsi Max.
Yeah, you're basically I mean, is that... Are you spiking it then? I don't know if...
I don't know, but that is basically strong Pepsi Max. I don't know any other way to describe that. But that is really, authentic.
Jesus
okay, and
Christ.
the last thing I'm going to do here is just the pure, and no one told me to do this. That's the important thing. No one told me to do this.
But also no one told you not to do this, and that's where I have failed you as a friend here today. This is an unrefrigerated shot of Pepsi Max syrup. Which, just for the record, did you get that in the food part of the shop or in the homeware part of the shop?
It was in the food part of the shop by the fizzy drinks. So it was in the fizzy drinks section. It was quite high up and it was at the back. I think, not safe for children.
You're saying that Asda weren't thrilled that you bought it, basically.
No. So, well, it's a shame you can't try this as well. But
I'll cheers with my big bottle of water that...
Cheers. Down in one. Oh,
my goodness.
Baby.
You look like you've knocked back perfume.
Oh. Okay.
Is it tart? You made a tart kind of puckering.
Yeah.
Coat the mouth, does it?
It's really coated the mouth.
Don't wash it down with strong Pepsi.
I'm going to wash it down.
Hard Pepsi. That's what they call it. Instead of Pepsi Max, it should be Pepsi Hard.
Pepsi hard taste, no sugar. It really tasted like cola bottle sweets, but eating so many cola bottle sweets that you get sick.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that wasn't pleasant, and I don't know what I expected.
Are you getting anything? You've had quite a bit of this now. Are you getting anything in the way of a rush now from this? You getting a caffeine because it's stronger?
What I will say is I've been mostly, but not stringently now, caffeine-free for quite a long time.
Yeah.
And this is fully caffeinated.
Oh, yeah.
And I've just drunk the pure undiluted syrup and also 2 strong Pepsis.
And it's also, just for those of you keeping score at home, the hottest day of the year.
It's extremely hot. I'm sweating a lot. I don't think that's because of the Pepsi. I think that's just because of the heat.
Have you got your spare top for later? Because you might need to change.
Yes.
Okay. I just thought I'd check.
So there you go. I would give the...
Yeah, how do you assign a glug rating to something like this? Because you've had three different drinks and many glugs.
I tell you what, I am genuinely feeling the effects of that now. I don't think it's just the heat. I've got a sort of weird giddiness feeling. I think combined with the heat, this is genuinely a little bit dangerous.
We're in the danger zone now. This is the lengths that you go to for this podcast.
Look, I would say, Soda Stream syrup, you don't need a Soda Stream. I just used some fizzy water there and I've made Pepsi Max. I've never been able to say that before. I've made Pepsi Max. So therefore, this is Pepsi Max. In its purest form. I can't give that any less than. Imagine the ramifications of this. What I could do with this. I'm going to give that 5 glugs.
He's literally clutching an evil serum, going, "Look what I can do with this." When did you become a supervillain? What happened?
Look what I could do with that. Imagine the permutations and ramifications of what I could do with that. It's so warm. It's so hot. It was nice to drink some room temperature.
Yeah, room temperature. Well, you've made your bed, and now you're going to have to go watch a movie. And
yes.
So on that auspicious note, let's go do a cinema swirl. We're dumb and dumber, that is. It's the initial gut reaction for Dumb and Dumber from you, Sam Chaplin, co-host of Cinema Swirl, the podcast.
Dare I say it? LOL/LMAO.
Oh, really?
Yes.
A desperate gasp at the start there made me think that I was going to get a different acronym, perhaps.
I laughed quite a lot at this, and I did enjoy it. A lot.
Did you?
Yes, and listeners, a little peek behind the magician's curtain. Kevin may have told me a little bit about some of his feelings about having had watched this film before we pressed record. I'm concerned we may have differing views, but that's not a bad thing on Cinema Swirl.
No, I don't want you to think now that I didn't enjoy this movie and had a really, really rubbish experience with it. But I will say, I did not LOL or Lemau. There was barely a ruffle here in the Mahan household. And I have a funny feeling that this was the case of, like, not that I've seen the movie so much, but the movie's language, I feel like 80% of this movie has been presented to me by people.
Right. Yes.
You know, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And it was less the laugh of joy and more the nods of recognition that was happening when I was watching this.
Oh, yeah.
It was. And I feel that perhaps the ship has sailed for me to sit down, watch this and have a laugh, right? Because it's simply, like, it occurred to me just how familiar I was with it. And I think it wasn't just because, you know, I'd seen the movie a fair bit over the years, but it's because every bit that I liked, I've kind of heard to the point of, yeah, okay, now other things.
Do you feel like maybe this movie has a sort of, much like a bottle of sauce, you know, once opened, consume within maybe 3 or 4 viewings, and then you can't really go beyond that, otherwise it's sour and rotten?
I don't know, because I mean, like, I'm not the type of person where it's like, okay, this is a really funny comedy, and, you know, if I watch it again, I won't laugh, because the first time I saw it was when I laughed.
Yeah.
You know, often I do go back to comedies quite a bit, and I end up laughing just as much, or if not more. I genuinely think it's not a case of over-analysis. It's just overexposure, I think, more than anything else.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to lie, after I didn't have a ruffle copter ride in the skies with this one, I did reach out to our fellow friend, Mr. Billy Keeble.
Yes.
I did say I needed to get confirmation of that anecdote before walking it
we
back.
need a statement.
I needed a statement here. So I texted him this morning when I'd finished watching the movie, and I said, "Hey Billy, remind me, what are your thoughts on Dumb and Dumber?" And he said, "I didn't see it until university when you, Adam, and I all watched it together. I didn't laugh, not even once. Don't get the hype. Also, fuck Jeff Daniels." Which straight away I was like, oh no.
There's more to it.
We had done our due diligence here. So I just replied, haha, I knew it. Why fuck Jeff Daniels as a matter of interest?
Oh, God.
And Billy replied saying... And if you, I feel like there should be the preface of you should listen to at least one episode of the Ad Share podcast with Billy, so this makes even the remotest lick of sense. But I said, why fuck Jeff Daniels, by the way? And he replied saying, no reason, just thought it would be funny to say, aha.
Okay. I mean, Billy really put quite a lot of fear into me there by saying fuck Jeff Daniels. I was like, oh no.
It's fine. Don't worry. He just thought it would be funny.
It would be a laugh.
To say fuck the name of a prominent white male celebrity from Hollywood who, let's face it, has had his day. I thought there was a toppling about to happen here, but no, we're safe for now.
Okay, all right. Well, thank you, Billy, for the written statement there and confirming your feelings on this film. Okay, well, look, I had fun, but I consumed this, fresh out of the packet. A box fresh experience of Dumb and Dumber for me.
And I think with it, first and foremost, we should say all the reservations that you may have potentially had that I was very gleeful to kind of allude to or make you ruminate about. For a movie from 1994, there's not many you could take off the shelf from 94 and not have to have it was the time of we do whatever we wanted to. There wasn't any of that going on. I was very happy with that, for the most part.
It holds up in those terms pretty well, I would say. And look, we start off, Kevin, with Jim Carrey with his funny haircut and his chipped tooth, which apparently is a legitimate chipped tooth.
Really? I look sore.
That he has had a kind of cap on for most of his career, but he had the cap removed for the film, but it's an authentic chipped tooth. If you're wondering why those chipped tooth effects were so good, it's because they were real. They were practical effects.
Do you think that on certain nights, if he's, with a romantic partner, and they want to have a little bit of fun role play, they'd be like, remove the tooth cap. I want to fuck Lloyd.
Lloyd?
I want to fuck Lloyd Christmas. Get that cap off. Come here, give me that pudding bowl. It was very much a pudding bowl haircut as well. That is... Was there anyone you ever knew who was victim to a haircut such as that? There was a couple of boys in my school who got the deep dish haircut like that.
There must have been a few pudding bowls. I've seen some severe curtains, I'll tell you that. But I don't know if I've seen any pudding bowls this egregious.
I mean, Jesus, some of the boys back in County Westmeath had such egregious bowl cuts, you'd think they were suet pudding their head was in the bowl so much.
So we start off with Lloyd Christmas in the back of a limo, speaking to a lady and saying, hello. I can't remember what he says. Hi.
He gives a kind of faux boffin spiel. He's like, I'm on my way to give a lecture at the medical college,
What did I say in the pre-swirl? I thought they might end up being like fumbling their way into being lecturers or something like that.
That's true. A couple of sausages amongst the eggheads is what you thought we'd be having.
And he says, nice accent you've got there. Where's that from? And the lady says, Austria. And Jim Carrey says, well, good day, mate. Let's put another shrimp on the barbie. And,
it's a very relatable form of stupidity that Lloyd in particular has. It's like not, because I know a lot of people who view themselves as stupid or had throughout their life. And there's a kind of a quietness of like, don't ask me. Sure, I'm only stupid type of thing.
Hi, Sam Chaplin here.
But there's something about the confidence of someone who's really stupid where it's like they do know things, but they're all wrong. And they will state them with the matter of factness as someone who does know some things.
Yes. Remind me at some point to come back to my comparison to another 90s comedy. In fact, let's do it now. I think this has got shades of a kind of Rick Mayall, Aid Edmondson Bottom dynamic in some ways.
I'd say that. Like if you were to make the US version of Bottom, I would, because it's going to be clean, it's going to be a different type of crude, still a little bit, very little physicality. This is like as far away from English Bottom, ergo perfect American Bottom in their minds.
Would the Americans call it butt if they were going to make an adaptation of Bottom?
No, they call it fanny. Fanny.
Yeah, it's two silly Billy stupid perverts, which is a dynamic I like. And so he's actually the limo driver. He wasn't in the back of the limo.
He ain't no boffin. He's but a chauffeur.
And we get a nice song that could wind your body, wiggle your belly.
We got a pretty potent soundtrack here. It feels like this is like pretty much the hits of the mid-90s. I mean, you got a lot. You think you got like Counting Crows, Crash Test Dummies. There's a lot of stuff you would have heard in a Gen Xer's transit van around this time.
Yes. There's a fun time vibe to the soundtrack, and I was here for it. The titles,
and a fun time vibe to the titles. Yeah, they were bouncing, bopping. Move over, Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey. The two titular words want to have a go at being fun as well.
Very 1994. I also like the little thing of in the credits, credits, the kind of opening credits, the names of the roles of the people are all spelt wrong.
Come on now.
That's a little bit of fun and a little bit of attention to detail. So we've been introduced to Lloyd. We've also got Jeff Daniels as Harry in a very cute dog van.
Yeah, that's what I was alluding to earlier, because I figured if there was one visual people knew about this, because I know there was a Dumb and Dumber cartoon as well that was kind of in circulation around the late 90s. If the dog mobile, the car for mutt cuts, if that was something that you had seen or knew about before.
No, I didn't know that.
Okay, interesting.
It's I can see how that might be, borderline iconic, that vehicle.
And I think as well, it's very important to point out with a movie like this, and I think they may have lost this ability just because of change in taste or whatnot. But I remember seeing this in the cinema, and I would have been, this is 94, so I would have been 6 or 7 years old only.
Okay.
I remember going to the cinema and being like, this is fucking great, this is for me. And then seeing it again as a teenager and thinking, this is great, this is for me. And then again in my 20s seeing it be like, this is great, this is for me. And it's not as if, it's like you watch like Freakazoid or Animaniacs. It's like, guess what, kids? There were all these jokes in here for the adults. It's like, no, because when you're a dirty little boy and a dirty little man, a lot of this stuff is still very funny.
Yes.
Regardless of your age.
Yeah. It's pretty universal. I'm scared of my notes here just being a list of gags. Of just like
we're doing a comedy here on Cinema Swirl. Hey!
So I consciously tried to steer away from that.
I want to know where you laughed out loud, though. I want to know the solid gags. Because, I was lacking a lot of those. I had a few moments of acknowledgement of humor, and I felt a little bit hollow afterwards. So I want to know what made you titter. I want to suck your joy for myself, please.
Well, I think I've written down some of the big ones later on, but there was a scene here, and this made me realise if I made my notes in the way that I had started doing, I would just be writing down like a list of goofs, which is a dangerous game to play. So limo driver Lloyd, he meets a posh lady who he's picking up for his job, Mary. There's a little bit where he sees her and notices that he's attracted to her, so sprays some, mouth spray, but it goes the wrong way. It goes out the wrong way. Bit of fun.
It's all kind of like very Mr. Beanie type humor at points.
Yes.
I feel, particularly from Jim. Like what I will say about Jim Carrey is, when we were doing the Mask episode, I felt like I was going on about like there's a lot of similar, what you get in Liar Liar and Ace Ventura and The Mask. Like, there are differences, but most of those differences are written down on the page. His performance is very much like, it's Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And I would say upon this watch, I thought, you know what? You actually are trying, his tone of voice, he does have his moments of pure Carrey, but he does try and give something a bit different. It's not just him doing the same old song and dance.
No.
Because I think Lloyd is a lower energy character than maybe Ace Ventura or Stanley Ipkiss when he's got The Mask.
Yes. And in conversation, he's very funny in a kind of silly way. So why are you going to the airport? Flying somewhere? It's things like that, and I was like, it's joke dense. It's very joke dense, this script.
It's like The Simpsons in that way. It's like, you could pause the scene, you could probably like, there's like a lot of like visual gags and stuff, like when they're driving the car and he's turning around and like telling her about like, one of these crazy bad drivers, and like you see like an accident happen like kind of off in the distance. There is like, for a movie that has a lot of big over the top moments, it does actually have a lot of these little bit more kind of subtle background gags, which I always enjoy.
It put me in mind of Airplane.
Yes.
Airplane.
Yes.
It's the same sort of vibe.
Well, his kind of interactions, the fact that he's quite personable with most people, and he is able to have a bit of like back and forth. I wouldn't say it's approaching banter or patter, but he can hold himself. The thing about this movie that is so unrealistic now is the idea that a lad like Lloyd would be a loser, doing a bunch of dead-end jobs, whereas in actual fact, he probably would be like the fucking, he'd be a high-ranking executive or like the fucking chairperson of a political party or something like that.
Yes.
Like, I don't quite buy the charismatic, dumb vacuum of an idiot being a loser. Come on, those people are built to run these countries.
Yes. And you know what? I thought both of these characters in their own way were not quite as comedically...
Cruel?
The portrayal of them as, I guess, dim-wits was not as harsh as I might have suspected in the first place.
Yeah, I think you're probably worried about a little bit of a 90s interpretation of a Dumbo, and you're expecting some kind of a bit of cruelty coming down the line.
Yes, and they have good hearts, and they're relatively perhaps slightly more three-dimensional characters than you might have expected in the first.
Yeah,
instance.
because they've got big dreams, they got business plans, they're going to own their own worm store, and like the only references is you see when they're in their house later on, there seems to be like this giant kind of prototype of like a load of like soil pressed up against glass with the kind of worms crawling about. Let me tell you, I'm an annelid head, so I'd get a worm farm in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
I'm all about them segmented boys.
Lloyd drops this nice lady off at the airport, drops Mary off, gets very emotional. He's very clearly like enamored with her.
How about a hug?
Driving alongside her as she kind of walks through the airport, says goodbye, my love, and then immediately crashes and gets hit with an airbag. The physical stuff is very funny to me, I think.
It's very, again, Mr. Bean, like, it reminds me a lot of...
Yes.
That he's doing kind of a lot of... it's not just the thing happens and it's funny, it's how he reacts, his facial expressions, how he flings himself across is very good. There's nothing more 1994 than this plot point. The lady drops her bag in the middle of the airport and people are like, hell, whatever,
Yeah.
And how many guns are you and liters of fluid are you taking on the plane today, madam?
I didn't twig that, but now you say it, it really feels like a relic of a different era. Yeah, she leaves her bag for a kind of drop-off pickup exchange because there's crime going on.
There's crime going on. There's a bag man or men involved.
Yeah, it's a ransom situation. But Lloyd doesn't know this, and why would he? So he runs in, sees that she's left her bag, scoops it up, goes after her. Okay, big laugh from me. Big laugh on the chuckleometer. Him running down the jetway, like trying to get...
Sorry, what is the official unit of measurement for the chuckleometer out of interest?
It's a chuckleometer and it's measured in guffaws.
Okay, all right,
yeah,
that's good.
So I would say this was probably
and you could have had guffometer and it was just there for you and you went with
that's if you do a bit of downstairs wind. That's on the guffometer. This is the chuckleometer that registers guffaws. I know it's complicated. And if you have four
and in the
guffaws,
US, you're like, what's a guffaw? It's like a chortle.
Yes, and you say, "Oh, what's chortle? 3 stars, but reads like a 4." So that's very insider. That
wow.
2 insider. I'm keeping it in, but it's a bit inside. She leaves the bag. Lloyd goes after it. He's running after her, and she's got on the plane. So he's running down the little kind of, what do you call it? The kind of suspended airport corridor. I think he says jetway later on. I think that's what it is.
Jetway.
The jetway.
Well, I hope it's the jetway. That sounds great.
He runs down that and just goes straight out the other end and just falls onto the floor. And I did just the timing and the physicality of it was just
you don't just see him go out and fall. You see him go through, and then you assume he'll be there, and then it cuts to him on the ground instead.
Yes. Yeah.
So I would say, it shows you in a movie like this that it's not necessarily just down to the players, but to how it's cut and all that, Yeah. Because I think the thing I always remember you saying to me was when we were doing stand-up back in the day in Lincoln, and there was all these would-be like YouTubers who've all fallen off the face of the earth or in prison now or whatever, and they're all like, "Oh, let's all go." They're all like, "Let's do stand-up comedy."
Yeah.
And you and I were pissed about it, and I remember Billy was as well, like because we were trying to work ourselves up, and then these lads just coming over and getting themselves a gig out of nowhere. And I always never forget you saying, "It'll be a lot harder once you realise you can't do a jump cut after your laugh." Like,
yeah. And I still stand by that because I've seen some of those YouTubers try and do the actual live on stage stuff, and it's not the same thing, lads.
Yeah, I went to the Old Bailey to see one of those YouTubers, and he did like a type 5, and I didn't think he had any. I mean, there's this one lad with the white hair and the big chair. He didn't like it at all.
So our main lads here, they both lost their little sort of dead end jobs,
and they live on Skid Row as well. Like literally, their house is right next to Rocky's bag. They are in the midst of Skid Row, and I love how shit their house is. It's like all dank and smelly, and basically what would happen if a lot of us were left to our own devices and didn't take the initiative to do a bit of washing up.
And again, it feels a little bit like, an American adaptation of Bottom.
I want to ask you this question. How old do you think Lloyd and Harry are in this movie, if you were to take a guess? Like, how old are they meant to be, not the actors, obviously?
So, I mean, Jim Carrey, I know you just said not the actors, but he's sort of at that youthful stage where he can still take comedy bumps, you know? Like, he's still...
He can still do the high spots. Like,
He's still working. I reckon they're meant to be late, like 30, I guess, maybe?
I thought late 20s. I think they're in that sweet spot where a load of people don't grow up and then they stop talking to the people who've grown up, so they live in this kind of fantasy suspended state of arrested development, assumedly until they die. I'm not sure, but yeah, they've got not a lot going for them. They got no job. They got no money, they got no food, they got their last little bit of money, and he says, don't blow this on anything. And he immediately comes back and we have like a great collection of useless stuff.
Yeah.
Like he's got pinwheels, things that you blow in the wind.
Pinwheels, big novelty cowboy hat, stuff like that. Also, there's some naughty crooks, some kidnappers,
criminals,
blackmailers, criminals trying to get into their flat. They do get into their flat and they kill their bird. I can't remember what the bird's name was, but they kill their little...
they remove the head of the bird. It's kind of like, when you're taking on an organization, you cut off the head of the snake. When you're these guys, you cut off the head of the bird. It's not quite the same thing here. There's a great line here, and this is one which has given me many laughs over the years.
Yeah.
But it became such a perfunctory part of how folks used to communicate in university that it couldn't elicit a laugh from me. But he's talking about Aspen and bigging up the idea that maybe they're going to go there, and he said it's so amazing. The beer flows like wine.
Yes,
and
That
I swear to God, I'm pretty sure one of my birthday invites had the beer will flow like wine on it. Everyone used to say that, to the point where I'm pretty sure there'd be people in my group who'd be saying that who've never even seen the movie.
No.
And it actually was when I heard it here, I was like, oh yeah, it's from here. And that's very rare a movie can do that, where it impacts on the speech patterns of a group or whatever. But after a while, the ownership of that is kind of lost to the gas of time.
That's a beautifully written little line. That's that's good stuff.
Can't tell you why I didn't laugh at the funny line, but I didn't.
Yeah, you were right when you brought up The Simpsons in terms of a similar kind of dense, packed-in writing.
Quotability line.
Yes,
And actually, I would say that probably happens with The Simpsons as well, because, The Simpsons was a huge part of, the vocabulary of, not just me, but, everyone in my friendship circles for a long time. And, in the last kind of 10 years, it's not really been as much. And as a result of that, not that I forget where quotes come from, but you don't have that immediate, that's a Simpsons quote, that's golden, that's The Simpsons. I feel like Dumb and Dumber is that a bit worse, probably, for me.
Maybe a little bit, but yeah, that was a spectacular line. And they want to go to Aspen. Well, Lloyd wants to go to Aspen because that's where Mary, the nice lady he saw during his limo shift, has gone to.
And he thinks Aspen's in California and it's very warm. Of course, Aspen being a ski resort in Colorado, it's very brisk, very cold indeed. I want to point out one moment from earlier in the movie that we may have pop past.
Sure.
I'm going to blame you.
Okay, thank you.
Sam Chaplin, hello.
Hello.
For me not enjoying it as much as I should have. The part where Harry is driving all the dogs to the big dog show and he's feeding them full of wieners and sausages and little willies. Yeah. And it gets a bit shook up and it's all over the place, and then the lady opens up the door, and you had told me that bit earlier on. You said, your friend sampled this thing from what you thought was from the movie, and I knew it wasn't from the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And I was expecting, even though I know what's going to happen, I was like, here it comes. It's going to be full of shit, and she's going to go, there's shit everywhere.
All over the wall. Yeah.
But they were covered in hot dog sauces like mustard and ketchup, and that wasn't as funny as the thought of loads of dogs, all different shapes and sizes, all covered in shit. And that has been taken from me now, and it's on you. I should have laughed there.
That's a real shame, Kevin. You watched the censored version for sort of telly and airplanes and things like that.
They changed it.
Where Harry says, there's mustard all over the walls. That line never comes up, by the way, so I don't know where that was from.
cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Let's try and find out. Where the shit came from.
Shit all over the wall. There was a scene later on where I thought it was definitely going to come up, and it didn't. But yeah, that never comes up, so I'm not sure the origin of that sample, but we will find out.
We're at the diner now.
Yeah,
so,
road trip. on the way.
I love a road. There's something like, and this is what was great about this movie for me all those years ago. It's like a road trip movie was a novelty. Like, I think this may have been the first road trip movie that I recall seeing, and I fucking love that. I feel like road trip movies have become through like several. Like, I felt like in 2006 it was beyond parody, the idea of having a road trip movie.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's such a beautiful way to give you, particularly when you're a youngster, being like, anything can happen, like,
Well,
you know?
I think it is, now I'm thinking about it, probably a perfect way for comedies to weave in sort of somewhat random sketch-like characters, because you'd kind of meet people along the way and you don't have to revisit them because you've driven past.
You don't have to write a proper movie then. And it's oh, dear.
Yeah, they're at a truck stop. A little line that I appreciated. Looking at the jukebox thing, they've got the Monkees. They were a major influence on the Beatles. It's little things like that. Very good.
Again, it's more the dumb, smart stuff, you know? The smart, dumb stuff. I'm not sure what it is.
Yes, and they get in trouble because Harry has thrown a salt shaker over his right shoulder instead of some salt over his right shoulder, and it's hit a man called Seabass.
And we get the line, kick his ass, Seabass.
Seabass, yeah.
Which was used for 6 years straight in my school. If there was a fight, a disagreement, if it was anything from a friendly scrap to a full-on fist fight, kick his ass, Seabass. One time when a teacher grabbed a student by the throat and lifted him up and held his hand up to punch him, and it was like shaking and quivering, and someone went, kick his ass, Seabass. Yeah. And again, I feel my own life experience. I'm not meant to have this much life experience that it could ruin a movie. This was meant to happen way later. I'm only 30-something now, right? This is ridiculous. But all I thought about then for the rest of the scene was like loads of fights that I saw when I was in school.
No. Okay.
And I don't think we all knew that when we were saying kick his ass, Seabass, we were referencing when Harry threw the salt.
No. Also, this film wasn't as gross as I thought it was going to be. There's still some gross moments. I think in terms of...
Yeah, it wasn't gross out or slime out, as Joe would call it, remotely. They cut away when he went to spit in the burger like it was gory or something.
Well...
Like.
In terms of bodily fluids and stuff, I almost think like phlegm, a big glob of spit.
Globule.
Is one of my least favourites.
What, to experience yourself or just to even see?
To see. It's one of the ones I'm probably most repulsed by. I think I'd sooner see some of the, the big hitters, the awful
body
ones.
Shouldn't make... The big hitters, what are your shits, your pisses, etc. I mean, the body shouldn't be making jellies. Like, I'm disgusted by phlegm in the same way I'm disgusted by my own eyes. There shouldn't be this thing in my body. Give me my solids, give me my liquids. This thing, I don't know whether I'm coming or going.
No. So Seabass, a kind of trucker bully figure, spits in Harry's burger because he got hit with a salt shaker. Again, the smart dumbness we're talking about, Lloyd, he, for someone who's meant to be a silly Billy, very quickly comes up with a great
silly Billy.
Great cunning ploy to get these bullies to pay for Harry and Lloyd's dinner and then get out of that. It's genius. He says he saw it in a movie or something, but it's a good scheme.
It's a good scheme. I could have sworn when I first, was going down to watch this that Seabass recurs a lot more in the movie as a kind of an ongoing threat, but that is not the case. But I do like that he's like, oh yeah, that movie I saw, it worked out such a charm. He's like, what happened next to the movie? It's like, they caught up with them and slit their throats. And there's these random jumps into like a much darker language that I absolutely appreciate. Like and that's what's kind of cool about this movie is that it feels like it's something that younger folks at the time, I guess, it would be more comfortable than watching. But, I feel like if I'm watching a movie now that's very much like PG-13, they're going with certain language, certain themes, certain things that you definitely wouldn't say. Like, you certainly wouldn't be watching a 12s movie now and they're going to say, oh, yeah, they got their throats slit. Like, no, that's the 90s for you, baby.
So now on their road trip, Lloyd... Is it Lloyd needs a piss? Lloyd needs a big old
dirty piss. All right, I need to talk this about with you now.
Okay, all right.
Pissing in a bottle. Where do you stand on that? Have you done it? What's the technique? Because I'm telling you right now, a 330. This isn't meant to be like a brag or anything like that. But for me personally, a 330 mil, that ain't doing the job. For the dick or the piss?
You know what? I appreciate an Oasis bottle. I'll say that.
It's a wide lip on an Oasis bottle.
It's a wide lip. I've only pissed in a bottle on a journey as a child. I have not done that for a long time. But even then...
So you pissed on a long journey as a child. Were you instructed by your parents to do this?
Yes.
Because I do remember times saying, like, I'll pee in a bottle and be like, no, you fucking won't. Stop. Like I was saying I was going to go to Hollywood or something like that. Don't be kind of the big talk. I think you're going to piss in a bottle, like.
So my parents were more, oh, yes, you fucking will. We're not pulling over.
Take one of the piss jugs, son.
Yeah, so I have done that, but even at that time, it's a tricky maneuver. That one
is.
Yeah,
it is.
It's not easy.
It feels strange and wrong in many, many ways.
Doesn't feel good. No,
I'm sure there are people out there who would happily put their willy into any number of bottles. For me, I think that is like. I remember Richard Herring had that bit that we saw where it was like he talked about it's the long list of things that men had admitted in his online survey they had put their penis into, and like this one of the ones was like a conditioner bottle, and like I look at every time I see my conditioner bottle I think about that, and I'm like, how horrible. How horrible for those people.
No, thank you. However, we were talking about how I didn't like phlegm and it wasn't one of my favourites. Piss, a big hitter, one of the classics. Something about too much piss. They've got empty bottles, they're just passing bottles along and just filling them with piss. That's funny.
Like this idea, this handover. Come on. Come on.
Piss everywhere. Piss all over the walls. That's going to be carnage. Yeah.
Be all over the principal photography. You would completely ruin the camera.
It's an absolute piss fest. And again, we've got a kind of little brief funny character. They get pulled over by a cop.
Who becomes an insect because he drinks piss.
He comes alongside the van and is like, pull over. And there's the little, no, it's a cardigan, but thanks for noticing. And I'm like, yes. There's puns in this. There's silly puns.
Oh, that's puns aplenty. Plenty.
And just a cop drinks piss. And, I think that's great stuff. That. Yes, please. More of that in movies.
Funny to think of him now, like, drinking the piss. And also as well, because he thought it was beer.
Yes.
And piss. I mean, I guess I didn't know how much salt he had on him, but you play your cards right, you can pretty much play the magician's hand there and make someone think one is the other.
I love the cop's reaction after drinking the piss and realising it's piss. It's just like, get out of here, you like leave now. Not like I'm going to arrest you or like he's just like, please leave me alone now that I've drunk piss. Get out of here. Go away.
I mean, look, Sam, people have made careers out of drinking piss. It is, it's big business these days. I mean, sure. I'd suggest I'd like to watch a whole show of nothing but people drinking their own piss, but I've already mentioned Bear Grylls The Island earlier in the episode. So, it's out there if you want it.
I suppose if he'd have pulled you over, he'd have been, oh, yes, please. Is that piss? Can I have a little spare bit of that, please? He loves it.
Shout out to the Yellow River Boys and their fabulous album, which is all about drinking piss.
So we find out at this point that the posh lady was leaving ransom money, and it's a kidnap deal. Her husband's been kidnapped. Ooh. Now, I mentioned how a road trip is a perfect vehicle for, your kind of sketch-like characters and moments. Another vehicle for that is the old dream/daydream scene.
Yes, this is like probably a lot of people's favourite part of the movie, and this is probably the most kind of classic Jim Carrey bit of the movie, if that makes sense.
Yes, he's got an idealised view of how this is all going to go down. He hugs Mary and has a little look up her skirt. It's 1994. It's a different time, lads.
Back when you could just throw a fistful of nuts on your face and get a rapturous applause, it takes a lot more than that these days.
It's cute that in his dream he's just doing silly shit and getting big laughs. Like, that's sweet that's his dream. It's just that he's just a funny guy and everyone's laughing.
Yeah, because I mean the delighting of the fart, I wanted to ask you about that. Big round of applause, great enjoyment from the room there. Now, I was wondering if you had ever set alight a fart or had been there nearby when that particular jape had unfolded, because I feel like it's something that people talk a big game about or know about, but really comes down to, look, all I'll say is this: in the 2000s, we were much more comfortable setting aerosols on fire than farts, which are way more dangerous.
I've seen the aerosol trick, the kind of, mini homemade flamethrower. I've seen that, but I've not seen it out of a bottom in person.
Really?
Yeah, no, never seen it.
Oh, well, Sam, I'm here to tell you now that I have got a fart lighting story for you, for us all to enjoy. There was a period of time, my school where I went to was a boarding school, and in my first year out of 6 there, they announced that there'd be no more boarding school. So as every year went on, there were less and less of us in the school. So in my final year, there was like 20 of us rattling around in this school that used to house like 1,000 boarding students. So to say that we kind of got a bit listless and kind of wandering around in our heads, it happened a lot. So a lot of really stupid, crazy shit happened later on in the years. One of which was a particular evening where all the boys decided that we were going to start lighting farts to see if, as advertised in the media, that it would create such. And I was taking chemistry at the time. I'm like, this is going to work. I know it is. And we had your foolhardy boys, the ones who can make themselves fart. But I'm like, look at you there with your splayed anus prone towards the sky, taking in vast sums of air. No methyl mercaptan, none of the methane, none of the fire. What, are you going to set the air on fire? Get out of town. Me over here, this is like 6 or 7 lads deep, right? They've all tried it to varying degrees of success. This lad here has had a calzone combo, and it's fucking 1 in the morning. I'm brewing is what I'm saying. The kettle's boiled. And it wasn't so much let me show you how it's done. Like, there was nothing like that, I was very much a background person in this group. So I grabbed the lighter and I was like, sure, I'll have a go. And I lit the fire on fire, and everyone's face went from pure joy to abject fear and horror. And then the room just kind of died down and everyone left. And I was like, I thought I'd set myself on fire or something when I saw everyone was disappointed, because I was like, that's a big one. I could feel the heat of it, like. I could feel like I'd done a fucking, like, a proper, like, Hadouken out of my arse. and everyone looked kind of horrified. Oh, no. And I was like, what, was it not very good? And then someone said to me, I think it was a bit too good, because
you spoiled
I created not so much a fireball, but like a wall of fire or a curtain of fire, it felt like. And I think I made a lot of boys realise how dangerous our little game was. And that's when we realised we didn't have a fire escape either. So it was probably not, we were literally playing with fire at that point. I got pulled over by my chemistry teacher out of class a day later, who told me with the most serious look in his fucking face, you could have welded your anus shut. Coulda, shoulda, woulda, yeah?
Fair play to him for keeping a straight face during that.
He was genuinely concerned,
Yeah.
Because I assume I was filled up with shit then and exploded. That would have been awful.
Yeah, it would have been a real Charlie and the Chocolate Factory horrible ending for you.
So I've never done it. I've never done it since. But I kind of feel like, if someone ever breaks into the house, I'm like, I'm going to go down and get something sharp, and I'm going to, if I had a dirty pizza that night, I'm going to set them on fire. Well, I didn't think about it.
Thank you for that, Kevin. It's a delight to hear those stories.
I'm happy to share the japes of 17-year-old flatulent Kevin.
In the dream sequence, we also get a sort of kung fu scene, with blokes' bollocks being bitten off, a chef being punched in the chest and his heart being pulled out, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Doing all the noises as well, like Bruce Lee, etc.
All that kind of carry on, good stuff.
His kiss technique in the fantasy.
Just the open mouth, a kind of Pac-Man approach to kissing, I think. You just kind of...
There's nothing like a good comedy kiss.
Yeah.
Like, I'll tell you, it's great. Like, as much as I love a good sweet kiss, if I'm going to get a kiss that has a punchline, I'm very excited indeed. Like, it's very, very good. A kiss on the cheek, great. A kiss on the cheek that becomes a tiny fart, amazing.
Wonderful stuff. And then she takes her clothes off, but her breasts are headlights that are flashing because Lloyd fell asleep at the wheel. Oh, whoopsie-daisy. A bit of dumb fun. They could have been killed. These boys, Harry and Lloyd.
Boys.
They have a little bit of a weird kind of homoerotic / homophobic back and forth.
Yeah, this is one of the requisite growing pains of the movie, I believe.
A kind of like, I wish you had knockers. because I'd have sex with you. You'd enjoy having sex with me, and saying all sorts of horrible things to each other. And they have a big scuffle. Well, not a scuffle, but an argument over this. And then some stuff gets brought up about a girl who Harry was dating who left him. Oh, and during that explanation, he says she wrote him a letter saying he didn't listen or whatever. I wasn't really paying attention, which is a good bit of business. She was seeing another guy. Lloyd looks very guilty. It's very clearly Lloyd.
Whoa, Lloyd.
That's going to come up later.
A betrayal in the past.
Yes, betrayal in the past. The naughty crooks, they've sort of caught up to our two heroes here.
And it's starting to kind of formulate in their minds and the people who are running the scam. But the idea that they start to think that they're actually a legitimate threat and what appears to be silly, stupid antics are actually very coordinated and very intelligent. So they're quite worried about them. They set up kind of a sting where one of them pretends to be a hitchhiker and get picked up. And they can pick up a lot of other hitchhikers and they're singing songs. But they go to a special spicy restaurant.
Yes.
And let me tell you, I laughed way too much at a man dying because he had a hot chili pepper. This gave me a laugh because I was like, this is just funny. This is great.
Have you ever eaten a stupid chili pepper before?
Sam, I literally did this exact thing the other night.
Okay.
And oh my fucking God. Because Joe loves salt and pepper, prawns, squid, tofu, whatever it is. I'm like, I'm going to learn to make my own. And I did learn to make my own because I had a big glut of chilies. And I thought if I remove the seeds of half of them, it'll be fine. And I swear to God, I went to another fucking dimension. It was absolutely, it was cold. I was sweating. I was just laid out, kind of... I felt like the opening credits of Mad Men when I had that spicy dinner is what I'm saying.
I have some advice if you're ever going to eat a spicy pepper to show off.
Yeah.
Do it at the end of your meal.
Because of course you won't ruin it all then, yeah.
Yeah, I made the mistake at my first works evening out of ordering a burger that had a spicy chili on it. And one of the lads dared me to eat the chili.
Oh, not the lads, those guys.
So who are now good friends, but at the time I was intimidated by the lads.
And they wanted chili.
I wanted to show off, so I just bit into the big chili that came on top of this burger as a kind of decoration. It wasn't.
Was it grilled? Was it just straight up raw? What were we talking about here?
I think it was grilled a little bit, but yeah, it was a deeply unpleasant experience and ruined my whole night.
Oh dear.
And my whole meal.
And your morning the next day as well, because that's the thing. When you eat you think this guy who dies from the spicy chili is bad, wait till he shits himself in his coffin later. That's going to be way worse. It'll bring him back to life. It'll be so bad.
Yes, but I'm glad that I didn't perish from chili like this fella. Also, Harry and Lloyd trying to cool down their mouths with mustard and ketchup. This film is funny, man. This is a very funny film.
I'm glad you're getting on with it. Oh, they also say check please as well. I swear to you, that's another thing which...
Check please.
All the time. And someone broke a glass, check please. You go, whoa, here. We used to say check please,
Yeah.
Again, more of this verbiage. And if you ask the group of people, it would be like, Dumb and Dumber is our favourite movie. No, it's just, it influenced a whole generation of people. And you know what? I've really noticed it from the vote. And I went back after he said that some people were a bit iffy about us doing this movie.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people who seemed to be along the lines of oh, Jesus, yeah, this. It's somehow lost its moment. There were sequels to this. And I think it's a good idea to try and tease apart maybe if these sequels killed the love of this franchise a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
We should do a vote on Cinema Swill. Dumb or Dumber.
Yeah, take a pick between Dumb or Dumber. Yeah, I would be curious to see those too. Now, another bit that is, aged curiously, I would say. Lloyd ends up at a rest stop cubicle at precisely 2:45 a.m., which is exactly when, according to some graffiti on the wall, it is time to be there to receive manly love.
Oh, that's why Seabass shows up. It's a gag that he's gay. Is that it?
I think that's it.
God, look at them now. Literally look at me giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, that could have been for anything. I'm an idiot. The gag is that the tough man is gay. That's some sort of a big fucking ha-ha to do.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't notice that. That's the goof.
So, I mean, Lloyd is about to be, he's just like sucking his thumb and like crying, and he's about to be, sexually assaulted by Seabass.
Oh, God, would you look at Jesus?
But thankfully, Harry has been talking to a nice girl at the petrol station.
And he sets himself on fire.
He's being very clumsy. He's lit his foot on fire. He bursts into the cubicle with a flaming foot to put it out and knocks down Seabass. So we don't get any more of that scene, which I'm very glad of. That was the one thing where I was like, okay,
The directors of this, the Farley brothers, are they folks who you've like heard of before? Because they've got quite a list of movies that came out like that were, varying degrees of success. I think they were always shooting for this, kind of magic formula again. I don't think they ever quite got there. But I think that this is slightly less crude. Because I have to remind, I was like, yeah, it's the Farley brothers. I was like, geez, if it's the Farley brothers, I would expect, more crudeness, not in a good way, let's just say.
Yeah. No, I have heard about them as kind of, directors of that sort of film, films of that ilk.
Films of that ilk.
I think one of the brothers went on to direct Green Book, which I know has its whole, that's its own whole thing, but it's tonally extremely different and a real departure.
Why don't you fucking direct a movie that makes a real difference for racial injustice, like Crash? Yeah? Trying to fucking solve these problems, man. Come on.
So Lloyd's taken over the driving while Harry's asleep, and he's gone completely the wrong way. He's gone the wrong way.
He's into the plains of Nebraska, which I hear are undulating.
And Harry's furious when he wakes up. They don't have enough money to get to Aspen. They don't have enough money to get home.
Oh, the line I love. Don't have enough money to sleep.
Don't have enough money to sleep.
That's another one. That's like if you were broke, that was one of the things that people used to always say.
To sleep. Yeah.
You don't have enough money to sleep. Ridiculous.
They are snookered, so Harry decides he's going to walk home. It's very cute.
Hear the morning bell. Hear the bell. Hear the Every time I hear the Crash Test Dummies, I just think about the TV series and cartoon, the Crash Test Dummies from the 90s, and how my favourite action figure was one of the Crash Test Dummies, that if you pressed him, he fell apart, and my brother tried to throw him over the house like it was a kettle over a pub, and he never landed anywhere, so I think he's somewhere on the roof of my parents' house. Aww. And every time I hear that song, I think of the scattered remnants of my Crash Test Dummy going, Look, if anyone's going to be controversial about my sound effect thing, I dare you to listen to the Crash Test Dummies, this song, and tell me that's not a sound effect. What is that? Is it a man singing? Fuck off. It's not a man singing. What's that?
That's a sound effect.
There's like a vacuum cleaner backing up or something. No way.
At this point, listeners, I've just come to nod and agree with what Kevin's saying about music. It's easier than trying to...
Your eyes betray your nodding head, Mr. Chaplin.
Yeah, it's a sound effect. Very cute that when Harry is putting his thumb out to hitchhike, he's got to keep pulling up his trousers. I just thought that was sweet and just it does some real character work for me.
I thought he was squatting and copping his shit. Like, I thought he was there to do a bit of dirty business. Like, like there was something in his head, like, that it was all right that he just do bare bottom on the dirty ground there because he was going to make more dirt himself. Like.
I do like silly stuff. I do like references to poo and shit and stuff. It does make me happy.
Hollywood would be too scared to show you a bum these days in such an unglamorous way.
So, Lloyd, he's traded the van for a silly little tiny bike.
Oh, yes, this little scoot.
And we get a little fake out where Harry's like, oh, Lloyd, I've never been more thrilled. You totally redeemed yourself. High five. Yeah, it's nice. They do a little missed high five, which is fun. And they make it to Aspen, frozen together because it's so cold. But they're in...
It's like the end of The Shining. I love that.
Yes, they're in Aspen. They're trying to find Mary. Lloyd can't remember her surname. And he's like, oh, wait, it's right here on the briefcase. Samsonite. Yes, please.
Great
gags aplenty. It's dense.
Some more luggage gags. Am I right?
Yeah, give me some more luggage gags. That's what I want.
So it's around this time they noticed that the case is full of dosh, and for some reason my head had told me that like Lloyd had already been dipping his beak in earlier on, like because he came up with money loads of random times. I'm like, he's already taking money from this. Look, all I'll say is that in our current economic climate in 2022, brackets summer thereof.
Yeah. Yeah, it's still hot.
It makes you dwell on how many things a briefcase of money could get you back in 94. They go to town on this now. They get Ferraris, they get ski gear, they're throwing cash out left and right, but they promise that they're going to do IOUs, which I was devastated to find out aren't a formal document later in life.
Oh, no. I loved... IOUs were a big thing as a kid, weren't they? I loved an IOU.
Yeah, and it took me... Like, I remember I was like 9 before I realised, IOU, it doesn't stand for something. It's like... It's a say it out da. I can't remember. It's either the Game of Life or Monopoly. It's not Monopoly. It's the Game of Life, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
That has IOUs in it, and they're like white and devastating. It's red font.
Oh, no, I love an IOU. But that's a very sweet kind of childlike approach to dealing with money. They just splash it on cars and a fancy hotel.
You can't lose money that's accounted for.
Where a hotel where Charles and Diana stayed while they were together. That's in the script, a bit of fun.
But Jesus Christ, these days a briefcase of money would only get you a briefcase of Lurpak, you know?
So the two lads, they're getting ready for a big fancy event. They find out that Mary is hosting, and her family are hosting, a Preservation Society for Owls event. The lads have got to get done up for the do. That's what you got to do for a do. You've got to get done up for a do.
Obviously.
And there's a cute little Pretty Woman scene that I'm like, I understand the reference. And they end up with the fucking silliest orange and blue suits. I love it. It's great costuming.
Do you remember what we talked about in the pre-swirl? There was tension because two sets of boys both wanted to come dressed a certain way to our dinner dance.
So
I just want you now to imagine two 17-year-old North Dublin boys walking in to a hotel dressed like this, and there being more than a bit of tension in the air because other people wanted to dress up as Lloyd and Harry. It's not fair.
No. I've just remembered the time that I went to a fancy dress party and there were two Marios and two Luigis, and it was, that was a similar level of tension.
That's tense, man. That's tense.
That was tense stuff. I mean, there's so many little movie references that I get here. There's the Silence of the Lambs reference. There's the
there is.
Yeah.
With the Silence of the Lambs reference, it makes me feel bad because it's like, look at these two idiots just quoting a movie. I'm like, that's like in 10 years from now, that's how people talk. Like, you know, that's that's not very far removed from non-Dumb and Dumber chat. That's just regular old chat. Like,
maybe that's why we're not seeing them as quite as silly as we thought, because they are basically just a couple of blokes who have,
they're millennials, man.
Yeah. And the thing that put me in mind of Bottom and Rick Mail and Aid Edmondson was Lloyd saying, I've just got that old-fashioned romantic feeling where I'd do anything to bone her. And again, that's kind of an Americanized version of, the sort of stuff that I was talking about.
Classic Hammersmith hardman talk right there.
Yes. Mary's here, they see her, and Lloyd's nervous, so he sends Harry in to go over to chat and to sort of set up a date or to bring her over.
I didn't know you could ask someone to do that for you. That's crazy.
Well, you can at school, the whole my mate fancies you type thing.
I didn't fancy anyone in my school. Fuck, damn it.
Yeah, no, I forget about the all-boys boarding school thing. That was a whole thing. There were lots of nervous young boys asking their confident friends to ask out girls on their behalf.
I mean, the closest I know about that is a friend of mine in Galway would say how it would go down is you go up to the person in question and go, will you shift him? And then if she said no, you turn to their friends and go, will any of ye shift him? And that's kind of the phrase. It's a bit cuter here, though, a little bit less crude.
Yeah. See, if we did that over here, it would be more like, can you please ask this person to move on? Can you shift him? Can you get him out of the way?
I see. I thought you meant to say if you did it over here, it'd be more like kind of the streets, like but that type of a thing. Talking about mates and being fit and
tomatoes.
You don't say shift, do you? What is it you say?
No, that's not one of my things. I know what you mean when you say shift, but we don't
snog is what you'd be saying over here, isn't it?
Yeah, snog.
If you said snog over in Ireland, you get beaten up for being a Protestant.
Right, okay. I'll bear that in mind. Although last time I went to Ireland, I was scared to talk about or eat tiffin. Because
well, in fairness, look, but as long as RTE can get the rights for shift, marry, avoid, I'll be very happy indeed.
So it turns out, Mary ends up fancying Harry more than Lloyd. Which
turns out there's something about Harry.
Yes.
Harry.
And so they end up setting up a sort of skiing date with each other.
Oh, let me tell you, we see a lot of it here now for the rest of the movie, but the Colorado cowboy high fashion, let me tell you something.
Oh.
I want one of them big long carpet coats. Yes, please.
Beautiful
Lloyd Christmas's look here is genuinely fabulous. What a feathery hat he has.
Yeah, great.
The tongue on the pole I had to look away for.
Oh, yeah, no, that's horrible.
I literally couldn't watch it. Like, it's so horrible to me. Just because I knew people who had stuck their tongue to an ice pole. And honestly, other than The Simpsons, this is the only place I remember them saying it. So it bears a debt of responsibility. But I do remember it being a lot less funny when a boy in my school got his tongue stuck to a pole. It was like horrifying. And he was bleeding on his tongue and it was like... awful stuff.
I do want to come back to something. I think in terms of misplaced quotes, there is a little Lloyd Christmas thing where he says something like,
yes,
a little bit of bubbly, or get some bubbly. But it's not a little bit of the bubbly.
No, it's not.
Ooh, a little bit of the bubbly. So Chris Jericho, a wrestler, said that.
It's more to my point that this movie it's seeped into the groundwater is what I'm saying, this movie.
Yes. Yes, but he's misquoted it. Also, the lads with the bubbly murder an owl by accident.
I love these owls, how shit they are. I love that they're like Beanie Babies. It's great. They were cute.
And more about the kind of accidental genius that the criminals ascribe to Harry and Lloyd. They're like, oh, we killed their birds, so they've killed our birds. They're geniuses, these guys. They're brutal. they're mean guys.
You put one of their little birds in the morgue, you put one of their slightly bigger birds in the other bird morgue. Call up the bird mortuary assistant. There's more bird bodies for the bird morgue.
I can give you another big laugh moment coming back to the frozen tongue frozen to a pole.
Please. Oh, is this when he's talking to the children? Going,
when he's talking with the thing. Just something about talking with your tongue stuck to something was done very well and is very funny.
My tongue literally hurts thinking about this scene.
It's a bit of fun, isn't it? Trying to speak with you. It is.
Tongues are mysterious. They're like the starfish of the human body, and I feel that we owe it to ourselves to preserve them.
Are they the strongest muscle in the body? I've heard that.
I mean, it depends on your definition of strength, because I would say cardiac muscle, which never tires, would be the strongest muscle in the body. Okay. Or that, or my raging biceps. Either or.
Can you make your tongue buff? Can you work out your tongue and get a strong tongue, a muscly tongue?
Oh, I think you're going to ask if I've done that, because yes, I have.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I've got a buffer. I've got a buffer tongue than I used to have.
Wow. How did you do it? Is their tongue... Oh, Kevin's doing a naughty smile at me.
I'm a full-time podcaster, Sam. I use my tongue a lot, so...
Okay, all right, fair enough.
But also, okay. So did you call that a naughty smile or a cheeky smile?
I said naughty, but was it more cheeky than naughty?
It was cheeky.
It was a cheeky smile. It was a cheeky
I resent the implication that it was a smirk. Whoa, where are we going now? I resent the implication that I was naughty in that instance.
He was cheeky. He was just cheeky.
I was simply cheeky. I wish the naughty to be stricken from the record.
I've just remembered seeing an advert for a zoo that had a new baby elephant coming in. And the
zoo baby
the tagline for the elephant was like, he's cute, he's cheeky, he's a cheeky elephant. The idea of a cheeky elephant was very appealing to me.
Well, they're trying to explain why they have him held captive, because he's cheeky. You wouldn't want him out there now doing all sorts.
And I'm pretty sure his name was Stephen, but that's by the by.
It's a cheeky name, to be fair, though, isn't it? Like... The
cheeky guy.
Jesus.
And he was cute, and I can imagine he was cheeky. So, Harry's made a connection with Mary. They're getting on really well.
Yes. And Lloyd goes to meet Harry's date by accident. So they've kind of swapped ladies.
They have. And Jim Carrey's character here, completely impervious to flirting and just pulls like funny, bored faces, doesn't want to listen to this woman talk about
it. Yes, truly a subscriber to the belief of treating them mean to keep them keen. Which is a fallacy-laden ideology, but he literally turns to her and goes, stop talking, I'm so bored. Which is not great technique, I would say, in terms of getting someone's interest.
Harry's technique is great because he's getting on well with Mary. They're making snowmen. He puts a little snow willy on it.
Mary's charmed.
Yes. They have a snowball fight, and it's the kind of playful throwing snowballs, and then Harry just fully bops her in the face very hard with a snowball, and the Foley sound effect. It's cracking stuff.
But that is so many people, isn't it, when they're like kind of trying to be playful and then they're like get really into it, like fucking psychopath. Like
Lloyd, I'm getting these two names confused. It's almost like Bill and
Because I think something about the chipped tooth that just reads Lloyd to me.
No, I would have instinctively said that he was the Harry of the two.
Really?
Yeah, but Lloyd heads back to Mary's house to see Harry driving away, and the face that Lloyd makes where he's gutted and crying and sad.
But also angry.
He's also angry, betrayed, sad. I've seen that as a reaction GIF/GIF, but it's GIF. It's not actually GIF, but I've seen that.
Whoa, what the fuck was that? You brought up a contentious issue, you played both sides, and then you just left us in a fucking lurch. What was that?
I say GIF, and I think GIF is an affront to language.
Well, then don't give it the time of day, Sam. Least of all on the show.
All right, I've seen it as a reaction GIF, and it's
called a GIF. Good Lord.
I've seen that in work teams group chats, that vision of Lloyd's face. I have seen that before, so I'm familiar with that.
Why, are you often being betrayed in the group chat?
No, but I've seen other people use that as like a sad reaction to some bad news or something.
Oh, so you haven't betrayed, you've just betrayed other people.
Yeah. People reacting to me betraying them.
Ah.
So Lloyd is onto Harry and what he's done here, but Harry is still carrying on the lie. So Lloyd slips loads of laxative into his tea to get revenge.
He slipped him a Mickey here, but he doesn't. He slipped him a few logs of shite because he's going to be really, really regretting that. You got your wish, Sam. We've gotten some more fluids here. We've taken the one solid of the body and we're turning it into a fluid for the purposes of this scene.
We've got the fluids, and I would have bet big on hearing my favourite sample, the shit everywhere, the shit all over the walls at this point, but we don't.
I think that's Me, Myself and Irene, which is also
maybe it is, yeah.
a Farley Brothers.
Right, okay.
Pretty sure. Not sure.
Harry on his date with his very bad tummy in Mary's house. Look, poop noises, fart noises, diarrhea noises. You've really got to get quality ones and you've got to use them well.
Because I think you and I are probably both of an ilk where, like, I'll recognise a pre-rendered fart sound effect.
Yeah.
And that'll take me right out of a scene in a movie. Like, if someone's like, and then I hear that's the fart I used in, like, your 3D movie maker 20 years ago type, right away I'm like, he's not farting for real. I don't buy it. The work is a farce. Absolutely not. I'll tell you what, credit to the Foley. Beautiful music here in the terms of the farts. And credit to Jeff Daniels. He put his back into it.
Oh, yes. And I was laughing a lot at this. And one of the funny fart noises genuinely spooked my dog, Stanley. He reacted. He turned his head and looked at the telly when Jeff Daniels did a particularly high-pitched guff.
Wow, that's impressive.
Great stuff.
Of course, because the dog was probably hearing the farts that you and I can't hear because of our audio range. So he was probably hearing all sorts.
And then to cap this off, Mary saying, I hope you're not using that toilet. It's broken. Which, is comedy classic stuff there.
It did make me a little anxious, that.
Yeah,
That idea.
I feel like it's the sort of situation that I could end up getting in. But what I would never do, but what I love, and it's the kind of mad panicked logic thinking, is that he just pours the toilet. He unscrews the toilet from the fixings and it's just pouring a whole toilet out of the window. Fucking hell. That's really funny. It is. Like, there's a toilet full of like shit and it's broken, so we've got to pour the toilet out of the window.
It's toilet humor, Sam. That's what it is. And you know
really
what?
Good toilet humor. Yeah.
There's a lot of people who do this. And they'll go straight to the brown. And there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
Some could say it's a bit of a crutch. But all I'll say is you got to appreciate how effective this poop scene, was, with no brown. Not even a smidgen.
It's much like the shark in Jaws, It's actually more effective because you don't see it, I would say.
I'm sure that, because I remember this is when I started going to speech and drama classes and I used to do like mimes and stuff like that. This is the type of stuff that made you think anything was possible. What, you think you can't shit yourself in your 2-minute mime because you got no shit in you? Think again.
Wonderful stuff. Very funny to me.
Great age, again, as I said, with distinction.
So Lloyd finally meets Mary. He comes to her house, tells her he's got the briefcase in his hotel room. And so she goes off with him to his hotel room. And she's very happy. She's like, you mean to say you drove 2,000 miles just for me? Gives him a little thankful kiss on the cheek.
Oh.
And we can also see that the criminals are coming as well. All of our plots here are converging.
The criminals are coming!
Yes. Lloyd's trying to make a kind of sincere speech that he's practicing about how she makes him feel like a schoolboy and, he
desperately wants to make love to her, and then he tells her that he's a paedophile.
Yeah, it's a good goof. It's a good.
It's
goof.
a great.
It's funny stuff.
As far as paedophile goofs go, that is a pretty solid gag right there.
Also, I think he's mocking the English quite a bit, Lloyd. He does this, I like you a lot.
He's having a go at you.
I like you a lot.
And you're probably like, I thought Oasis and Blur taking the world by storm would give me an eye out of respect on the world stage. And you didn't get it, did you?
She doesn't like him. And she says, his chances are not good.
1 in a million.
1 in a million. And his response, very cute. So you're telling me there's a chance. And again, another oft-quoted thing, I think. I think that's, a big thing.
Yeah, I know a lot of brave boys who said that when they were not so gently put down over the years.
Oh, dear.
So I'm implying there that these boys are being like shot and killed or something like that. I meant like gently let down by people they're interested in doing a kiss on.
Emotionally shot and killed. Although that's how it would have felt for those emotionally fragile boys.
Metaphorically or literally, it was happening round back.
Yeah. But the big boss of the kidnappers,
real baddie's the lawyer.
Comes in.
Dirty tricks.
Yeah. And Lloyd, Harry, and Mary are now all on a bed, about to be killed.
Woo!
And still arguing about girls and stuff.
3 in a bed, about to be killed.
Hey. There's that naughty smirk again.
There it is.
I recognise that a mile. And you know what? It's quite cute that the two lads volunteer to be shot first to kind of protect the other until Lloyd's just like, no, fine, just shoot him first. Harry does get shot.
Triple shot.
Yeah.
Bam.
And then shoots the baddie because he's not killed.
Well, he doesn't shoot the baddie though, does he? Yeah, he
tries to.
He creates like an outline. He creates arch by shooting around him.
Turns out he'd been working with the feds.
And you want to be shooting through someone, not around them, generally speaking.
Yeah, he'd been working with the feds. The FBI storm in. It was the woman from the gas station earlier, / the bar with Lloyd. She's FBI.
Undercover FBI. Yeah. A gag that always brings a smile to my face, but I was affected by not being able to laugh today for whatever reason. But he's like, what if you got shot in the head? I'm like, that's a risk we were willing to take. There's kind of like just something about this movie that I think is really, really great, and they hit it here at this exact sweet spot, is everyone in this movie, to an extent, is somehow a little bit silly. Like, everyone. Yeah. The cops are kind of a little bit silly. The criminals who are chasing them are a little bit silly. The only people who are kind of played very straight are like Mary and some of her kind of immediate family or whatever it is, because they're going through the kidnapping. But it always makes, for my money, a much more, and you mentioned Bottom as well, and I think that it works because of that as well, where they're silly characters in a silly world, which kind of explains why their silly characters can exist. Yeah. I want the fish to be out of water. I don't want the fish to be nowhere near even the concept of water. And the fact that they have silly people to play off of. And like, I was thinking at the end of this movie, the laughs are shared pretty evenly between the two leads. And, there's enough guffaws there for some of the supporting cast.
Yeah,
it's not the Jim Carrey show quite as much as I remembered it.
No, and I'm glad of that. It gives everyone else a chance to shine, and they shine pretty brightly.
I don't get the Jim Carrey fatigue that I usually do. Like, if I watch like The Cable Guy or an Ace Ventura, or like when we watch The Mask, around the 70-minute mark was when I get that Carrey fatigue, where I'm like, all right, now go to bed. Go to bed, please. I was hiding under my couch, hoping he doesn't see me. Go away. Go away. Get out of my freaking house.
The big baddie's taken away. Mary, she's reunited with her kidnapped husband. So Lloyd and Harry are obviously, sad about that. They don't get the girl. Cut to the two lads with no... Oh, also they reveal that the cash is just full of IOUs, and that makes everyone upset, you know.
Everyone's upset. No money. And this bit happens at the end of the movie. I'm convinced they could have put this like literally at any point once they hit the road, and it would have been as effective. But this is probably the most 90s comedy part of it. Because Sam, this is a fucking babe bus, dude.
Yeah, they're walking through the desert, down on their luck. They've run out of money. They didn't get the girl. Their hog has broken down.
They didn't get the girl, but they got the babes, baby.
There's a bus full of the Hawaiian bikini competition tour is rolling through town, and they're wondering if there's two volunteer oil boys who can can come with them.
Just the phrase "oil boys" is
oil
funny.
Boys for the remainder of their tour, and Harry's like, "Oh yeah, there's a town just down there, and you'll be able to find someone." Lloyd, he's fuming, so he runs after the thing and says, "God, I'm sorry about my friend there. The town's back that way." So in a way, Kevin, they're dumb and they're dumber because they didn't think that they didn't put and credits roll as the boys play tag and dick about, and there we go. That was Dumb and Dumber.
Big laughs for you.
Big laughs for me. I didn't write down all the goofs and I didn't quote everything.
Oh, but you were laughing throughout.
Yes, I was laughing throughout. Big laughs. Plenty of laughs.
I don't say you don't like to laugh, because you obviously do. But I do think it's not
game for
given. Yeah, but I know it's not given, even though you are game for a giggle, it's not given your gameness for giggling, that you will have such a reaction with a comedy. Because I know we have had some comedies here where it's been like, it is funny. And I think like your reaction to it it's heartwarming to me. It makes me feel less bad about my own reaction. Because I just feel like, here's a movie where I felt like I've strip-mined it and I fracked it for like little social snippets that we all use in a group. And now I've come back and I've tried to plough the field, and even though it's been left fallow, all the nutrients have left the soil. I just feel like I have strip-minded. There's nothing left for me here in this movie. I watched it and it was a mostly emotionless experience for me. Other than there was hits of nostalgia here and there, but it wasn't nostalgia for the movie. It was nostalgia for referencing the movie and whatnot.
Okay.
And the one thing about it, though, that I was really happy about was that there was a part of my mind thinking that Billy Keeble thought in my head that perhaps those of us who obsessed over it have ruined it for everyone else.
Yeah.
But that doesn't seem to be the case here, because you would have been privy to a lot of Dumb and Dumber hype in your time, no doubt.
Yeah.
And you still had a good time.
I had a great time. I can see how maybe if I watched this more and referenced it more, and I almost think I've watched this at a really good time in terms of my age, and
I think so. Yeah.
If I'd have watched it as a teenager and become kind of obsessed with it and kept mentioning it all the time, then maybe I would have worn myself out.
Like, I feel the same way about Spaced and Shaun of the Dead. Loved them, adored them. Absolutely, they were so important for me. Probably even more important than this was when I was growing up. But I watched it so much, and then I used it so much that I feel like watching it now, it's kind of like a bit like, looking at a watch type of a thing. Its time has come and gone in my life. But I'm so happy that you enjoyed it nonetheless. What was your favourite gag in the movie, do you think? What was the biggest laugh that I think it got out of you in retrospect?
I laughed big early on at Lloyd running along the airport jetway and just falling out. That was a great physical comedy bit. And I also... Thick laugh, registered high with the guffaw rating on the chuckleometer. And you know what? The big shitting, the loud, funny shitting, and the pouring a toilet out of a window, spectacular stuff. That's not to say that there wasn't, quality writing in this and some of the just written jokes. Your beer flows like wine, etc. This was jam-packed with jokes, filled to the brim with gags.
And you liked the crudeness to it as well. It was to your taste.
It wasn't too gross. I can't really put my finger on it, but it kind of pitched itself at the right level for me. It's a delicate balancing act. You could have so easily tipped over into something that I didn't like at all, but it just hit the right notes. I think I've been conditioned for that kind of comedy through what I've grown up with.
Would you want to watch more Farrelly Brothers movies then? Like, there's something about Mary feels like a very big movie from this time. I know I mentioned Me, Myself and Irene as well. That's another one. I know there are ones though it would probably be more fitting to put on a swill. But I think it's worth bearing in mind that this was not a one and done. This was the start of them being kind of the comedy kings of Hollywood for a couple of years. And, I would say those other movies similarly, not with my friendship circles, but with older boys, I remember like Me, Myself and Irene and Something About Mary taking on kind of a similar life of their own.
Yeah.
Would you be interested in those? Those are a bit more on the ruder side.
I would be curious to see how the folks behind this handle something a bit more raunchy and racy and rude, and whether that is the thing that tips me over into not liking it or not. I would be very curious.
I mean, this makes it seem like there's an obvious sequel here, but no one's ever said anything good to me about either of the other movies that came out, so I'm wondering if they're cursed. I'm just assuming they're going on Cinema Swill either way.
I heard one of them, the most recent one with the original cast, was funded with stolen Malaysian money or something.
Yes. Oh, Sam, there's an encyclopedia thick controversy tab on that Wikipedia page.
Yeah. So, I'm interested in what happened to this franchise, I guess, beyond this movie. But this, I can see why people are passionate about it, both negatively and positively. Obviously, there's stuff up with this. It's not, it's not perfect, but it tickled me in a way that I think American comedy movies, or indeed comedy movies in general, but we've watched quite a few American comedy movies, sometimes don't with me, and this just hit the right funny bone, and I had a real good time.
It stood the test of time, I think, as good as a movie like this could ever possibly hope to. I really think that it is in many ways something of a miracle, because I feel like this is the exact type of movie where someone would be like, because I know we were talking about putting Ace Ventura up there, but there's a big hesitation with that. I think that's come up into the vote twice, and then we said, no, don't bother, because there's a really awful, transphobic bit in that movie that just sticks out as aggressively mean and unnecessarily cruel and horrible. And I don't think it's a Jim Carrey thing necessarily. I think it's kind of like a Hollywood thing at the time that a lot of stuff was fair game. And in a movie that is making fun of dumb idiots, it's amazing they didn't spread their targets a bit further or were a little bit less kind, I guess, in their comedy. It's really good-natured,
Yes, it's good-natured. It's got more heart to it than you might expect.
They're not horrible. They're grating at points, but they're not horrible.
They're not horrible.
It's the least annoying Jim Carrey comes across in the leading role, I think, in a comedy movie, I reckon. Yeah,
and, Jeff Daniels, for me, I've not seen much of his work, but he's
great comedy. He's great in this. Yeah, really, really good. They're a great pairing.
He's got a lot to compete with when you're opposite Carey in a comedy role, but he really, he rises to the occasion.
He handled himself better than a certain Tommy Lee Jones on the set of Batman Forever. Let's just say that, yeah? So leave me in doubt no longer. Yeah. What is your rating, your star wipe rating for Dumb and Dumber?
LOL, LMFAO, party rocking in the house tonight, 4 star wipes.
You heard it here first.
Oh, thanks for listening to another episode of Cinema Swirl. This episode was produced by Kevin, edited by me, Sam, and I also did the music. If you want to support the show, then patreon.com/cinemaswirl is the way to go. If you want to follow us on the socials, we're at CinemaSwirl on Twitter and facebook.com/CinemaSwirl on Facebook, which is where our votes for episodes take place. If you've got questions, queries, comments, or anything else for the mailbag, then send it on over to cinemaswirl@gmail.com. That's cinemaswirl@gmail.com. Please do keep recommending the show to your friends if you think they'll like it, or even if you don't think they'll like it, just recommend it anyway. Oh, and if there are any bits in recent episodes that you think would make particularly nice video clips, the kind of thing we've had on our socials recently, then send us a tweet and let us know. Alright, we'll see you next time. Cheers, bye.